The Life and Sad Ending of Jerry Lee Lewis. Jerry Lee Lewis was born on September 29, 1935, in Ferriday, Louisiana, U.S. In his youth, he began playing piano with two of his cousins, Gilley and Jimmy Swaggart. His parents mortgaged their farm to buy him a piano. There is an adage that happiness is like a pyramid. There are many floors. The higher you climb, the less happiness, so it is difficult to have happiness. Human life is not past decades, like flowing water. Joy is a kind of realm. Happiness is a kind of pursuit. Humans only have two hands. How many things can we hold? Grasping one means letting go of the other. Letting go of and losing reality is always the greatest thing in life. When the road has passed, we know whether it is long or short. Having gone through it, we know whether it's happy or sad. The taste has tasted to know that there is a sweet acrid. Anything can be let go of, but joy cannot be let go. Anything can lose but cannot lose a smile. Through the years in his life, Lewis has been married 7 times. He had 6 children during his marriages. In 1962, his son Steve Allen Lewis drowned in a swimming pool accident at age 3, and in 1973, Jerry Lee Lewis Jr. died at the age of 19 when he overturned the Jeep he was driving. When he was 16, he married Dorothy Barton, daughter of a preacher. Their union lasted for 20 months, from February 1952 to October 1953. His second marriage in September 1953, to Jane Mitchum, was of dubious validity because it occurred 23 days before his divorce from Barton was final. After 4 years, Lewis filed for divorce in October 1957. The couple had 2 children, Jerry Lee Lewis Jr. and Ronnie Guy Lewis. His third marriage was to 13-year-old Myra Gale Brown, his first cousin once removed, on December 12, 1957. However, his divorce from Jane Mitchum was not finalized before the ceremony took place, so he remarried Brown on June 4, 1958. In 1970, Brown filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery and abuse, charging that she had been subject to every type of physical and mental abuse imaginable. They had 2 children, Steve Allen Lewis and Phoebe Allen Lewis. His fourth marriage was to Jaron Elizabeth Gunn Pate. Pate drowned in a swimming pool at the home of a friend with whom she was staying, several weeks before divorce proceedings could be finalized. They had 1 daughter, Lori Lee Lewis. His fifth marriage, to Sean Stevens, lasted 77 days, from June to August 1983, ending with her death. His sixth marriage, to Carrie McCarver, lasted 21 years, from April 1984 to June 2005. They have 1 child, Jerry Lee Lewis III. Lewis married his 7th wife Judith Lewis on March 9, 2012. The next day, Lewis severed business ties with his daughter Phoebe Lewis Lofton, who was his manager, and revoked her power of attorney. Continuing to mention, his career is known. In December 1956, Lewis began recording prolifically, as a solo artist and as a session musician for other Sun artists, including Carl Perkins and Johnny Cash. His distinctive piano playing can be heard on many tracks recorded at Sun in late 1956 and early 1957, including Carl Perkins' Matchbox, Your True Love, and Put Your Cat Clothes On, and Billy Lee Riley's Flyin' Saucers Rock and Roll. Lewis' own singles advanced his career as a soloist during 1957, with hits such as Whole Lotta Shakin' Goin' On, a Big Maybelle cover, and Great Balls of Fire, his biggest hit, bringing him international fame, despite criticism for the songs, which prompted some radio stations to boycott them. His dynamic performance style can be seen in films such as High School Confidential, and Jamboree. He has been called rock and roll's first great wild man and also rock and roll's first great eclectic. Classical composer Michael Nyman has also cited Lewis' style as the progenitor of his own aesthetic. In 1960, Lewis recorded his only major hit during this period, a rendition of Ray Charles' What Did I Say in 1961. In Europe, other updated versions of Sweet Little 16 and Good Golly Miss Molly entered the hit parade. On popular EPs, Hang Up My Rock and Roll Shoes, I've Been Twistin', Money and Hello Josephine also became turntable hits, especially in nascent discotheques. Another recording of Lewis playing an instrumental boogie arrangement of the Glenn Miller Orchestra favorite In the Mood was issued on the Philips International label under the pseudonym The Hawk. Lewis' Sun recording contract ended in 1963, and he joined Smash Records, where he made a number of rock recordings that did not further his career. Mercury didn't really know what to do with Lewis after that. One of Smash's first decisions was to record a retread of his Sun hits, Golden Hits of Jerry Lee Lewis, which was inspired by the continuing enthusiasm European fans had shown for Lewis' firebrand rock and roll. In June 1963, Lewis returned to the UK for the first time since the scandal that nearly ended his career 5 years earlier, to headline performance on the MV Royal Daffodil, for a cross-channel rock and roll cruise from Southend, Essex, the UK to Boulogne, France. For this performance, he was backed by Ritchie Blackmore and the Outlaws. However, despite his successful live tours, none of Lewis' early Smash albums, including The Return of Rock, Memphis Beat, and Soul My Way, were commercial successes. One major success during these lost years was the concert album Live at the Star Club, Hamburg, recorded with the Nashville Teens in 1964, which is considered one of the greatest live albums ever. The results were sonically astonishing, with Bonomo observing, "Detractors complain of the album's crashing noisiness, the lack of subtlety with which Jerry Lee revisits the songs. The fact that the piano is mixed too loudly, but what is certain is that Siggy Locke on this spring evening captured something brutally honest about the killer, about the primal and timeless center of the very best rock and roll." The album showcases Lewis' skills as a pianist and singer, honed by relentless touring. In a 5 out of 5 stars review, Milo Miles wrote in Rolling Stone magazine that Live at the Star Club, Hamburg is not an album, it's a crime scene. Jerry Lee Lewis slaughters his rivals in a 13-song set that feels like one long convulsion. Lewis recorded the Jerry Chestnut song Another Place, Another Time, which was released as a single on March 9, 1968, and, to everyone's amazement, shot up the country charts. At the time of the release, Lewis had been playing Iago in a rock and roll adaptation of Othello called Catch My Soul in Los Angeles but was soon rushed back to Nashville to record another batch of songs with producer Jerry Kennedy. What followed was a string of hits that no one could have ever predicted, although country music had always remained a major part of Lewis' repertoire. The last time Lewis had a song on the country charts was with Pen and Paper in 1964, which had reached number 36, but Another Place, Another Time would go all the way to number 4 and remain on the charts for 17 weeks. Between 1968 and 1977, Lewis had 17 top 10 hit singles on the Billboard Country chart. The production on his early country albums, such as Another Place, Another Time and She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, was sparse, quite different from the slick Nashville sound that was predominant on country radio at the time, and also expressed a full commitment by Lewis to a country audience. In a remarkable turnaround, Lewis became the most bankable country star in the world. He was so huge in 1970 that his former Smash producer Shelby Singleton, who purchased Sun Records from Sam Phillips in July 1969, wasted no time in repackaging many of Lewis' old country recordings with such effectiveness that many fans assumed they were recent releases. One of his latter unreleased Sun recordings, 1 Minute Past Eternity, was issued as a single and soared to number 2 on the country chart, following Lewis' recent Mercury hit She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye. Singleton would milk these unreleased recordings for years, following the golden cream of the country with A Taste of Country later in 1970. Lewis returned to the pop charts with Me and Bobby McGee in 1971 and Chantilly Lace in 1972, and this turn of events, coupled with a revitalized public interest in vintage rock and roll. The remake of Lewis' old son cut Drinking Wine Spo DOD would be the album's hit single, reaching number 20 on the Billboard Country chart and peaking at number 41 on the pop chart. The session would be Lewis' highest pop charting album since 1964's Golden Hits of Jerry Lee Lewis, hitting number 37. It did far better on the Country Albums chart, rising to number 4. His last big hit with Mercury was Middle Age Crazy, which made it to number 4 in 1977. Almost died from a ruptured stomach in 1981. In 1986, Lewis was one of the inaugural inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 1998, Lewis toured Europe with Chuck Berry and Little Richard. On February 12, 2005, he was given a Lifetime Achievement Award by the Recording Academy. On September 26, 2006, a new album titled Last Man Standing was released, featuring many of rock and roll's elite as guest stars. Receiving positive reviews, the album charted in 4 different Billboard charts, including a 2-week stay at number 1 on the indie charts. In May 2013, Lewis opened a new club on Beale Street in Memphis. Lewis is still considered actively performing in concert, though he has had to cancel all shows since his February 28, 2019 stroke, waiting for his doctor's go-ahead. In March 2020, it was announced that Lewis, together with producer T-Bone Burnett, was recording a new album of gospel covers. It was the first time he entered a recording studio following his stroke. On October 27, 2020, to celebrate Lewis' 85th birthday, a livestream aired on YouTube, Facebook, and his official website. The livestream special, Whole Lotta Celebratin' Goin' On, featured appearances and performances by Willie Nelson, Elton John, Mike Love, Priscilla Presley, Joe Walsh, and others. John Stamos served as host. Life and everything around us. Every hour and minute is always changing with space and time. Nothing is permanent. That is impermanence, which means that nothing permanent will last forever. Time is impermanent. Human life is so short that, then, at a moment, it is precious to live in peace and enjoy choosing love.